Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We were discussing about fifth phase of Ottoman Empire and we discussed about Sultan Abdul Hamid II. Today we are going to discuss some events that happened in this time of Sultan Abdul Hamid II. First of all, we are going to discuss an important concept that originated in this time, which is known as Pan-Islamism. So, Abdul Hamid II promoted this concept and this ideology of Pan-Islamism because he believed that ideas of Tanzimat reforms couldn't bring pupils of Ottoman Empire to a common identity or to a common goal of Ottomanism. So, to bring people into a common identity and a common goal is to adopt a new ideology, and he named that ideology as Pan-Islamism. So, he used this ideology of Pan-Islamism to unify every individual under Ottoman Empire, even though their language is different or their race is different or their color is different. He wanted them united under the religious concept of Islam, and he encouraged Pan-Islamism by telling Muslims living under European powers to unite as one against these European powers. And this ideology and its influence threatened many European countries, especially Russia, Austria, France, and Britain, because some of their territories were Muslim populated territories. So, if this ideology influenced the people of that place, it may bring some threats to these countries. And also, in this time of Pan-Islamism, Theodor Herzl started an organization named Zionism, which later tried their best to establish a country for Jews, which is named as Israel. So, he approached Abdul Hamid II with an offer to pay a big portion of Ottoman debt in exchange to allowing Jews to settle in Palestine. But Sultan Abdul Hamid II refused this offer, and he replied that as long as I am alive, I will not have our body divided, only our corpse they can divide. So, this reply of Sultan Abdul Hamid also caused for a huge influence of Pan-Islamism all across the world. So, we can say Pan-Islamism in the beginning was a very successful ideology, and especially after that ideology became widespread all over the Muslim world, Muslims began to celebrate every victory of Ottoman Empire against any European countries. But later, after some time, the influence of this ideology became decreased because Muslims who lived under the Ottoman Empire became in opposition of some laws and policies which was brought by Sultan Abdul Hamid II. So, even though it was a big success in the beginning, later this ideology became a failure for Ottoman Empire. Another important thing happened in this time was Young Turk Revolution. So, before going to discuss about this revolution, we have to understand what is meant by Young Turk. We discussed earlier that in 1876, Abdul Hamid II brought a constitution and a parliament system to Ottoman Empire with support of a group of people named as Young Turks. And later in 1878, he abolished and dissolved that parliament and constitution. So, the supporters of the constitution and parliament and opponents of the autocracy of Abdul Hamid II joined together as a group, and they named that group as Young Turks, and important leaders of these groups are Sabahuddin and Ahmad Raza. They have some ultimate goals to achieve by making this organization. First one was to bring parliamentary system and constitution to Ottoman Empire, and second one to abolish Khilafat or the autocracy, and third one to make a new country based upon Turkish origin and Turkish language. So this group worked as a political movement to achieve, to get and implement their goals. And also on the same time there were another organization which was named as Committee of Ottoman Union. Later they changed their name into Committee of Union and Progress, which is abbreviated as CUP, and the leaders of this group was Abdullah Saudat, and this secret organization also on the same aim and goal of the Young Turks. So later these two groups were known as Young Turks, and these two groups joined together to make a revolution against Sultan Abdul Hamid II to bring constitution and parliament to Ottoman Empire, and that revolution is later known as Young Turk Revolution. So in 1908 the Young Turks and pro-CUP officers marched to Istanbul, forcing Abdulhamid II to restore the old constitution of Ottoman Empire, which he abolished in 1878, and this revolution was successful, and they established and returned the constitution and parliament to Ottoman Empire in 1908, and this era after 1908 later known as Second Constitution era, and in this era Ottoman Empire accepted parliamentary system and democracy. So it was for first time there was a democracy in the Ottoman Empire. In 1909 there happened a counter revolution against the revolution of Young Turks. This counter revolution was organized by some soldiers who supported Sultan Abdul Hamid II and his government. So they overthrew Young Turks government, which was under Hüseyin Hilmi Pasha, and also after overthrowing them Sultan Abdul Hamid II suspended the constitution and parliament which was brought by Young Turks after their revolution, and when he suspended constitution and parliament there took place a civil war between Young Turks or Committee of Union and Progress and Sultan Abdul Hamid supporters. And in this civil war CUP or Committee of Union Progress was led under the leadership of Mustafa Kemal Pasha or Ataturk, who later became known as father of modern Turkish Republic. And in the civil war soldiers and armies under the CUP or Committee of Union and Progress became successful, so they decided to depose or dethrone Abdul Hamid II, and they asked help from ulamas to dethrone Abdul Hamid II, and they gave their support to CUP. And in 1909 April 27 Abdul Hamid's brother Rashid Effendi, who later known as Muhammad V, became the new ruler of Ottoman Empire, and Abdul Hamid II was the last ruler who had absolute power over the Ottoman Empire. The rulers who came after Abdul Hamid II were nominal rulers. They don't have any power, they just function as a name. Muhammad V or Rashid Effendi became the 35th Ottoman Sultan, and he ruled between 1909 to 1918, and he was a nominal ruler, no power, no political power, as a consequence of CUP's Young Turk Revolution, which established constitution and parliament in the Ottoman Empire. His ruling time became significant because lot of territories of Ottoman Empire were lost in this time, especially all the territories in Europe except Istanbul was conquered by other European countries, and also in North Africa Ottoman Empire lost all their territories. And also in his time in 1914 he proclaimed Ottoman Empire's entrance to the First World War with the Germans or Central Powers. And as we discussed earlier, Sultan Muhammad V's proclamation of jihad in the First World War was the last proclamation of jihad by an Ottoman ruler, and no other rulers of Ottoman Empire after him proclaimed any jihad against any region, because Khilafat was abolished in 1924. and in 1918, 3 months before the end of First World War, Sultan Muhammad V died and Sultan Muhammad VI became the new ruler of Ottoman Empire. So in coming class we will discuss about that, and also we will discuss about the decline of the Ottoman Empire and its